first question that we wanted to talk to you about, and that's really to do with the social intermediate split of housing in the area. Obviously, at the moment, there's higher than normal amounts of social housing in the area, and it's certainly come up through our consultation with local people that they wanted a different balance of tenure up within the area. So the first question is, do you think the proposed 60-40 social to intermediate split for affordable housing should be applied more flexibly in individual schemes within this area in order to achieve a more mixed tenure? I don't know if anyone wanted to kick off with a comment on that.
Well, I could comment on that, because I think altogether you're lumping together 4 wards that really all they have in common is that they're areas of high deprivation, but they have entirely different characteristics, and what you might decide to do for one of the wards regarding balance of tenure is very, very different to the others. I mean, I in many ways, from my perspective, Church Street, apart from its deprivation, has very little in common with the other further northern areas, and because it links in so well with, because it's on the edge of Edgware Road and has stations and so on, because it links in so well with the rest of Westminster, it is almost has its balance of housing, in my view. On the surface it could appear to be a ghetto, but in fact, because of very good communications, because it's so compact and all around it are totally different kinds of housing, it would be nonsense to try and achieve a different balance within it. It is what it is.
Okay. So you're suggesting that particularly within Church Street or within the broader area that we shouldn't look for a different balance?
I was just talking about Church Street itself. I mean, we made the neighbourhood board, which has resident representation, said that it would only welcome more housing of any kind if it came with a balance of community provision, because what is needed is, because it's so compact and because it's all social housing, what it needs are the funded activities and well-provided green spaces that would balance that setup. But they very much like the idea of being a close-knit community, albeit of a very wide ethnic mix, very diverse community. Nevertheless, sort of, well, they hanging well together, and they want to remain there, and they want their relatives to be able to live there, and their children and grandparents and whatever. So it is.
I just want to go onto the same topic. The area is widespread, and it's very different. To generalise is going to be to nobody's benefit. I think that's the only thing that I would say, and whereas it's supposed to Church Street as well, it applies to Westbourne, it applies to Harrow Road, it applies to further along. So these generalisations, and they've been with the scheme since it began, they really need to be reassessed.
Okay. So we're effectively saying for this that you don't think that there should be any special adjustment across the whole of the economic development area.
I'm not sure I completely understand the question. Do we apply 60-40 to any new development that's going on? Yeah, so we insist on 40% social housing.
Well, we don't currently. No, we do not. We're proposing to go towards that. The London plan has a 70-30 split,
right? Okay.
And we currently apply that in the larger sites, larger developments. The Mayor has indicated that he'd like to go towards more of 60-40. And we're proposing to go along those lines, but then there may be sites, for example, sites in this area where we'd like to be a bit more flexible to maybe get a better balance of housing. So that might mean increasing intermediate.
Can I just say something from the housing department perspective, which isn't necessarily about numbers? Well, there is a numbers issue with housing, which is there's a great demand for affordable housing in Westminster, long waiting lists, we need more social rented housing. But I think we also recognise that in places such as this, the balance maybe isn't quite right, and there does need to be other opportunities for people to enter into other forms of tenure. However, the intermediate housing that we currently produce through what's called shared ownership, which is the main intermediate product, is actually very expensive. If you looked at it on a scale of say 1 to 10, social rented would be priced at about 10, outright sale, social rented 1, outright sale 10, and intermediate's probably priced at about the 8 scale. And we need more products at the sort of 3 and 4 that people who are currently living in social rented housing and are working can genuinely aspire to and buy into. Currently, with changes that have happened to the right to buy and the way that prices have gone up, there are a lot of people who are essentially just stuck in social housing, and we think we need more tenure mobility, more fluidity in the system that will free things up. Now that might mean more intermediate housing, or it might actually mean less intermediate housing, but better priced intermediate housing in certain cases. So I'm not sure we've got a fixed view necessarily on the numbers split, but we certainly have a view that a lot of the housing that's coming through the system currently is not really affordable to the sorts of people that would like to be able to access it.
Does that fit in with what you've been saying, that perhaps is there scope for more intermediate for adjusting the mix, or do you still think that that's too general an approach and inappropriate across the whole of the economic development area?
Well, your own records will show what the take-up of intermediate housing has been from residents in our areas. As you say, sort of intermediate housing way out of their price range is of no interest.
I think it's particularly been hit just recently with what's happened in terms of the availability of mortgage finance, and people are really struggling to... just as an example, there's quite a lot of units available currently in the Grosvenor Waterside development in the south of Westminster, which Dominion Housing Association is struggling to shift. They're priced at £300,000. Say if you go for a 50% share of that, £150,000. Probably the average household income for a working household living in social housing is about £25,000. That's a multiple that's, even if they've got a reasonable deposit, they're simply not going to be able to afford that. And we do think we need things that are priced closer to that level of affordability.
Doesn't it come back to who's going to build these things? And whether it's viable for them to do so. Unless you've got some sort of viability assessment attached to this, you're never going to reach your target anyway. So surely you've got to think about viability.
So I think it comes down to the viability of the developer and the amount of subsidy that...
But this doesn't mention viability at all. This is just a bland target.
Is it possible to provide intermediate packages that can be viable and delivered by the public sector? Through developments?
Well, I think it comes down to what balance is tolerable for the developer and how much subsidy the Housing Association is able to attract through the Homes and Communities Agency. So it's possible, yes, but currently the system has sort of one product that it produces which doesn't really work because it's linked to the value of the property. It's not very affordable in such a high value, probably the most valuable part of the planet, almost certainly the most valuable part of the UK.